On the night of June 8th into the early hours of June 9th, 2026, a powerful explosion shook the area near the village of Belovskoye in Russia's Belgorod region. Within a short time, a series of secondary explosions followed. A massive column of smoke rose into the sky, and emergency crews were sent to the scene. Belgorod authorities said more than 20 private homes, 3 apartment buildings, and 1 administrative building were damaged. 5 people were reported injured. Several hours later, Ukraine's general staff confirmed that Ukrainian forces had carried out a strike against a Russian military logistics facility in the area. What began as an explosion inside Russian territory quickly drew the attention of military analysts because it came as Ukraine continues expanding its campaign against Russian logistics behind the front line. What role does a military depot near the border play in Russia's operations? Why did Belovskoye become a target at this particular moment? And if this depot was only one link in a much larger supply network, what does the explosion on the night of June 8th into June 9th reveal about the growing logistics war taking place behind the battlefield in Ukraine? Let's find out on Military Force. On the night of June 8th to June 9th, 2026, a major explosion near Belovskoye in Russia's Belgorod region turned a rear-area ammunition depot into a battlefield target. Ukraine's general staff later said its forces had struck a Russian military logistics facility during a wider series of attacks on Russian military sites. The location matters because Belgorod is not a distant storage zone. It sits close to Ukraine and is tied to the roads, depots, and command routes that support Russian operations around Kharkiv, parts of Donbass, and the northeastern front. For Moscow, a depot in this region can serve more than one purpose. It can hold ammunition before it is moved closer to artillery units. It can support the movement of missiles, spare parts, fuel, engineering equipment, and other supplies needed by formations near the border. It can also act as a buffer between Russia's internal supply network and the units fighting or preparing to fight inside Ukraine. That makes such a site valuable, even if it is not located directly on the front line. Ukraine's strike on Belovskoye fits a broader pattern of pressure against Russia's rear support system. Kyiv is not only trying to destroy tanks, guns, and infantry positions already in combat. It is also trying to reach the places where those forces are fed, armed, repaired, and prepared before they move. This changes the meaning of distance for both sides. A depot may be inside Russian territory, but if it can be located and targeted, its distance from the trench no longer gives it full protection. The immediate battlefield effect may not appear on a map the next morning. No village changes hands simply because one depot burns. But logistics works through rhythm, and rhythm is vulnerable. If ammunition is delayed, artillery fire can slow. If fuel is interrupted, vehicles may wait longer before moving. If spare parts are lost, damaged systems can remain out of action. These effects can build quietly, especially when several storage sites and transport nodes are hit over time, forcing commanders to adjust plans before troops even move forward, or artillery begins another fire mission. Belovskoye therefore points to a harder problem for Russia than a single night of damage. Large depots are efficient because they gather supplies in one place, but that same concentration creates a major target. Smaller depots are harder to destroy at once, but they require more vehicles, guards, routes, and coordination. Either choice carries its own operational cost. Ukraine's attack shows that the rear area near the border is now part of the contest under wartime pressure, and the value of this target became clearer when secondary explosions began spreading beyond the storage area. After the initial strike near Belovskoye, the most telling signs did not come only from the first blast. They came from what followed. The area around the ammunition depot reportedly saw a series of secondary explosions, large smoke columns, and a fire response that had to deal with a dangerous site still burning and detonating after the main impact. In military terms, that pattern matters because a storage point filled with harmless equipment does not usually keep exploding. Repeated detonations often suggest that ammunition, propellant, warheads, fuel, or other unstable military materials were present in meaningful quantities. Secondary explosions can turn one strike into a much larger emergency. When munitions cook off, they do not behave like a normal fire inside a civilian warehouse. Shells, rocket motors, charges, and fuel containers can ignite at different moments. Every new explosion can scatter fragments, spread flames, and make the surrounding area even more dangerous. Fire crews then face a situation that is both technical and life-threatening. They cannot simply move close, flood the site with water, and finish the job. Instead, they often have to wait for pauses between explosions, watch the direction of smoke and flying debris, and avoid areas where unexploded ammunition may still react to heat. As long as the chain reaction continues, the danger remains unpredictable for both emergency responders and nearby residents. The civilian damage reported by Belgorod authorities also shows how far the impact may have reached beyond the military facility itself. Local officials said more than 20 private homes, 3 apartment buildings, and 1 administrative building were damaged. They also reported that 5 people were wounded. These numbers move the event beyond the description of a military strike alone. They show that when a depot containing large amounts of military material is hit, nearby communities can also suffer from the continuing explosions. Even if the intended target is a military site, the energy released by an ammunition depot can travel through the surrounding area. Blast waves can shatter windows, damage roofs, weaken walls, and spread debris far beyond the original point of impact. This is one reason why the location of military storage sites has become increasingly important during modern conflicts. Keeping supplies closer to operational routes may improve military efficiency, but it also increases the potential risk to nearby civilian areas if those facilities come under attack. For Russia, the aftermath creates several challenges at the same time. Emergency services must secure the area, while local authorities inspect damaged buildings and assist affected residents. Military officials also have to determine what equipment may have been lost, what can still be recovered, and whether nearby stockpiles should be relocated as a precaution. Even if the front line does not immediately change, every hour spent responding to a damaged logistics site requires manpower, vehicles, engineering resources, and security personnel that could otherwise support military operations elsewhere. The damage also creates an information problem for Moscow. A depot can be hidden before a strike, but once explosions spread into nearby streets, the event becomes difficult to control. Smoke, broken windows, emergency vehicles, and civilian reports can turn a military incident into a visible sign that rear areas are no longer fully separated from the war itself anymore. The longer the secondary explosions continue, the more difficult it becomes to contain the consequences. Large smoke columns can be seen from long distances. Residents can record the explosions, while visible damage to homes and public buildings quickly becomes part of the public record. In modern warfare, the effects of a strike are measured not only by the first explosion, but also by everything that happens afterward. The chain of secondary blasts near Belovskoye therefore raises another question, one that goes beyond the damage visible from outside. It leads directly to a larger issue about what may have been stored inside the depot before the explosions began. Ukrainian media channels and several Ukrainian OSINT accounts have suggested that the Belovskoye depot may have held missiles linked to Russia's S-300, S-400, and Iskander systems. That claim remains unconfirmed by Ukraine, Russia, or independent sources, so it must be treated carefully. Still, the possibility matters because it changes how the depot should be understood. If such weapons or components were stored there, Belovskoye was not just a place for ordinary battlefield ammunition. It may have been part of a higher-value supply chain in this wider war. The S-300 and S-400 are best known as air defense systems. Russia uses them to protect cities, bases, airfields, command sites, and military routes from aircraft, drones, and missiles. Their interceptor missiles are not simple shells. They require specialized launchers, radar support, trained crews, maintenance, and a steady stock of ready ammunition. Losing even a portion of that stock can create pressure, because air defense is not only about having launchers on the ground. It is also about having enough missiles available when incoming threats appear. There is another layer to these systems. Russia has used some air defense missiles in ground attack roles during the war in Ukraine. This does not mean every missile in a depot is intended for that purpose, but it shows why such stocks can have more than one military use. A missile designed to defend Russian airspace can also become part of a strike campaign if commanders choose to use it that way. For Ukraine, reducing these stocks could therefore affect both Russian protection and Russian attack capacity. The possible presence of Iskander-related material would raise the value of the target even further. Iskander is a long-range strike system used to hit command posts, airfields, logistics hubs, and infrastructure. It is not a cheap or easily replaced weapon. Its missiles depend on advanced guidance, propulsion, warhead design, and industrial capacity. Replacing destroyed missiles or key components is not like replacing rifle ammunition. It can require factory time, rare parts, skilled labor, and planning across Russia's defense industry. If Belovskoye contained any of these assets, the damage would not be measured only by the number of items destroyed. The larger effect would come from disruption. Russia would have to check remaining stocks, move surviving material, review storage procedures, and decide where scarce missiles should go next. Some may be needed for air defense near the border. Others may be reserved for strikes against Ukraine. More may be required to protect deeper Russian regions that now face growing attack pressure. This creates a difficult allocation problem. Every missile kept for air defense cannot be used for ground attack. Every missile used in a strike cannot defend a depot, refinery, airfield, or command center later. When storage sites are hit, that pressure becomes sharper because planners must work with fewer ready stocks and more exposed supply routes. Even uncertainty can create friction, since commanders may move valuable materials simply because they fear the next depot has already been identified. That is why the discussion around Belovskoye matters, even before full confirmation of what was inside. A normal ammunition depot is already useful to an army, but a depot holding air defense missiles or ballistic missile components would sit closer to the center of Russia's war machine. It would connect rear storage with air defense, missile strikes, and battlefield support. The exact contents still need verification, but the question itself leads to a wider issue. How did Ukraine find and hit a site that Russia may have considered protected under growing pressure from Ukraine's expanding long-range campaign? Ukraine's reported use of the Shark UAV before the Belovskoye strike shows why modern deep attacks are no longer only about the weapon that lands on the target. They are about the system that finds the target first. A launcher can deliver the final blow, but it cannot strike with precision unless someone has located the site and sent coordinates. The Shark UAV is best understood as a reconnaissance tool, not as the weapon that caused the explosion. Its role is part of ISR, which means intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. It helps commanders see what is hidden, watch how a site behaves, and decide whether it is worth attacking. For a depot near Belovskoye, that could mean looking for movement, heat signatures, covered storage areas, vehicle activity, or signs that a location is more than ordinary. Military sites are often built to look quiet. Trucks may be parked under cover. Stockpiles may be hidden behind trees, roofs, or camouflage sheets. Roads may appear empty for most of the day. A reconnaissance drone gives the attacker time to study those signs from above. It can turn a suspected site into a confirmed target, the difference between wasting a missile and hitting something that matters. HIMARS then becomes the final part of the chain. Its value is not only range or explosive power, its value is precision when paired with accurate targeting data. If the coordinates are poor, even an advanced rocket can miss the key area. If the coordinates are correct, a limited number of rockets can create an effect far larger than their size suggests. Drone observation may be as important as the launcher. The reported sequence near Belovskoye follows a pattern military viewers would recognize. First, the target is found. Then it is fixed in place. After that, it is tracked and confirmed. Commanders decide whether it is worth the strike, and only then is the fire mission carried out. After impact, the result is assessed through smoke, explosions, damage, or reports. This is the logic behind the phrase find, fix, track, target, engage, and assess. The target becomes vulnerable before the rocket is launched. Once a depot is seen, measured, and placed into a fire control process, its protection begins to weaken. Distance still matters, but it is no longer enough. A site inside Russian territory can still be exposed if it leaves signs that drones, satellites, informants, or other sources can connect into a target picture. For Russia, this creates a difficult defensive problem. It is not enough to guard the gate of a depot or hide vehicles under trees. The entire pattern of activity can become evidence. Truck visits, generator heat, ground marks, storage covers, and road traffic can reveal what a facility is doing. In a war shaped by drones and precision fire, a logistics site must defend not only its walls, but also its signature. Belovskoye reflects a wider shift in the war. The decisive moment may not be the explosion itself, but the quiet process that happens before it. The site is observed, judged, and connected to a weapon able to reach it. That process turns a hidden depot into a marked target. It should not be viewed only as one strike, because Ukraine also reported attacks on military targets in different areas. Ukraine did not present the Belovskoye strike as an isolated event. Around the same period, Ukraine's general staff also reported attacks against Russian military targets in Donetsk and Luhansk. That detail changes the scale of the story. Belovskoye was located inside Russia's Belgorod region, while Donetsk and Luhansk are directly connected to active combat operations. Together, these locations suggest that Ukraine was applying pressure across different parts of Russia's military support system, not only one depot. For Russia, this creates a challenge beyond one damaged site. Belgorod supports operations near the border and the northeastern front. Donetsk and Luhansk support forces already engaged in combat. When several areas become vulnerable at once, commanders must consider how each attack could affect the wider flow of supplies across multiple sectors. This pressure falls on the logistics network that keeps military operations running every day. That network includes ammunition depots, fuel storage sites, repair facilities, railway junctions, road corridors, transfer points, and temporary supply areas. Some locations store equipment, while others move it from one place to another. Both functions matter because military operations depend on constant movement. A shell inside a warehouse has little value until it reaches an artillery battery. Fuel inside a depot cannot move armored vehicles unless transport units deliver it forward. Spare parts cannot return damaged vehicles to service unless repair teams receive them on time. Because of that, a strike against logistics does not need to destroy a combat unit to influence future fighting. Delaying supplies by several hours or forcing convoys onto longer routes can reduce operational tempo without changing the front line immediately. If Russia sends additional air defense systems to protect rear facilities, those systems cannot be used somewhere else. If engineering teams repair damaged depots, they cannot work on other military infrastructure at the same time. Russia therefore faces a difficult balance. Large depots improve efficiency because supplies can be gathered, protected, and distributed from one location. At the same time, they become attractive targets once identified. Smaller storage sites reduce the risk of losing everything in one strike, but they require more trucks, more personnel, more security, and more coordination. A dispersed logistics network is harder to destroy, yet it usually moves supplies more slowly. Ukraine appears to be increasing pressure on that dilemma. Instead of focusing only on forces already fighting, Kyiv is also targeting the system that prepares, supplies, and supports those forces before they reach combat. The effects may appear gradually instead of immediately. An artillery unit receiving fewer shells, a repair team waiting for spare parts, or a convoy arriving later than planned can all reduce the pace of future operations. From Belgorod to Donetsk and Luhansk, the picture no longer looks like several unrelated explosions. It suggests a broader campaign designed to place continuous pressure on Russia's logistics network across multiple regions and over several operational layers. The next question is how much strain this wider campaign can place on Russia before supplies even reach the battlefield. Ukraine's deep strike strategy is built around a simple idea. Russian forces become weaker at the front when their supplies are disrupted before they arrive. The explosion in Belgorod fits that logic. It showed how a rear facility can become part of the battlefield if it helps feed the war with ammunition, missiles, fuel, spare parts, or equipment. This pressure does not work like a direct assault on a trench. It works through delay. Artillery units need shells at the right time. Armored groups need fuel before they can move. Air defense batteries need interceptor missiles before they can keep protecting roads, depots, and command sites. If any part of that flow slows down, the effect can reach soldiers who are far from the original blast. For Ukraine, precision strikes offer a way to attack Russia's strength without meeting every Russian unit head-on. Russia has more territory, more rear space, and many layers of support. But that depth also creates a long supply system that must be guarded, moved, repaired, and hidden. Every depot pushed farther from the front adds distance. Every smaller storage point adds complexity. Every extra guard unit or air defense system assigned to protect a rear site is a resource not used somewhere else. Russia can respond, but none of the choices are cost-free. It can move depots deeper into its own territory, but then trucks and trains must travel longer routes. It can improve camouflage, but activity still leaves signs. It can split stocks into smaller sites, but coordination becomes harder. It can add more air defense, but those systems also need missiles, crews, maintenance, and secure positions. This is why Ukraine does not need to destroy Russia's entire logistics system in one strike. The aim is to make that system slower, more expensive, and less predictable. A convoy that takes a longer road can arrive late. A depot that must be moved can pause distribution. A commander who does not trust a storage site may hold back supplies until safety is checked. Belovskoye fits this larger pattern. The blast was not only about what burned inside one depot, it was also about the shrinking sense of safety around Russia's rear areas. When storage sites behind the border can be watched, targeted, and forced into emergency response, the pressure does not stop at the warehouse gate. It begins moving toward the front. Belovskoye should not be viewed as a single explosion in a border region. It fits a wider Ukrainian effort to pressure Russian logistics behind the front line. If the reports about S-300, S-400, and Iskander-related material are accurate, the loss could reach beyond ordinary ammunition. Even without full confirmation, the secondary blast suggests that the site carried real military value. The strike also shows how modern war now works. A target is first observed, then located, checked, and finally hit with precise fire. In this kind of war, distance alone cannot protect a depot if its activity can be detected. For Russia, the problem is larger than one damaged storage site. Every similar facility near Ukraine may now face the same risk. A rear area is safe only while it remains unseen. Once it enters the targeting chain, the front line begins to move closer. If you found this analysis useful, please subscribe to Military Force and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest reports on the conflicts shaping today's world. Our goal is not to celebrate war, but to understand how military technology, strategy, and political decisions continue to affect millions of lives. The better we understand how wars are fought, the better we can understand why peace is so difficult to achieve and why it remains worth protecting. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next report.